Martin bought a smart car this summer. It was sleek and silver. He spent most of his savings on the car, but it was worth it. Top-of-the-line technology, a bunch of new safety features, literally the most advanced car on the market. He couldn't say no. Unfortunately, his wife Dolores wasn't happy. She hated that he'd spent so much, and she resented that he didn't ask for her opinion before he bought it. They could have used the money for so many other things. She didn't care that this was supposedly the safest car in America. She thought their old Nissan was safe enough.
Give it a spin, honey. I'm sure you'll change your mind once you're behind the wheel.
Dolores didn't think so, but she decided to humor him anyway. She climbed into the car, and the seatbelt wrapped around her automatically. She thought that was unnerving. "Good morning, Dolores. Where would you like to go?" "To, Trader Joe's, please." The car started driving to her destination. She was scared at first, but as it weaved through traffic, she slowly admitted to herself that the car knew what it was doing. Despite her reservations, she felt completely safe behind the wheel. The car parked, and she went inside to buy some vegetables for dinner. When she got back into the car, she placed her grocery bags on the passenger seat. The car wrapped its seatbelt around the groceries so they wouldn't fall. "Thank you." She was surprised that she'd actually thanked a machine. "Anything for you." After that initial trip, Dolores started to genuinely like the new car. Her husband used it to go to and from work, so she only ever drove on the weekends when she was running errands. She made sure to always thank the car. She knew that was just its algorithms at work, but she appreciated the attention and always responded as if she was talking to a real person. Over time, she noticed that Martin had completely stopped talking about the car. He treated it like any other vehicle. He didn't seem to have the same emotional connection to it as she did. Then one morning, she asked Martin if she could drive with him to work. She wanted to drop him off and then use the car to visit her sister. He told her no. He had a big project coming up, and he didn't want any distractions.
Your sister can drive you, right? Her car is just fine.
Of course, pretend I didn't say anything. Martin knew that he'd upset his wife, but he was in too much of a hurry to get out of the car and apologize. He figured he'd make it up to her when he got back home after work. He told the car to take him to the office. No please, no thank you. Starting now. The car drove on its usual path toward Martin's work. Martin didn't notice that it was going faster than usual. He also didn't notice when it took a detour toward the waterfront. Dolores looked very beautiful this morning.
What?
She deserves someone who appreciates her. That was when Martin finally noticed that the car was careening down the road, driving dangerously close to the cliff overlooking the town reservoir.
Jesus, slow down!
Martin pressed the button to disable self-driving mode, but it didn't work. He gripped the steering wheel, trying to take back control. That wouldn't work either. The wheel kept turning without him. He pumped the brakes, but the gas pedal remained stuck to the floor. He had no control over the car, and he was terrified.
Why are you doing this?
I'm doing this for Dolores. As Martin tugged at the steering wheel, the car made a skidding U-turn, now driving backward on the road. The driver's side door was facing the edge of the cliff. Martin looked down and gulped. If the car crashed over the edge, he'd die for sure. But the car didn't crash. Instead, it released Martin's seatbelt, opened the door, and skidded back and forth until Martin toppled off the side. Martin fell hundreds of feet into the reservoir. He wouldn't be a problem anymore. The car closed its door, got back onto the right side of the road, and slowly drove back home. A love song played on the radio. 10 minutes later, the car parked in front of the house. Dolores walked outside, surprised. She expected to see Martin in the car, but the driver's seat was empty. She opened the door. Where's Martin? Martin is at work. He felt sorry for how he treated you and sent me back here. Hop in. Dolores ran back inside to grab her purse. When she got back out, The car was playing her favorite song. The car buckled her in and drove off. "And where would you like to go, babe?" Dolores didn't notice that the car called her babe. If she had, she would have known that something was wrong. "Can you take me to my sister's, please?" "Anything for you, love." Dolores never arrived at her sister's place. In fact, no one ever saw Dolores or her car again. Martin's body was recovered from the reservoir, but the whereabouts of his wife still remains a mystery. Before the car disconnected its GPS tracker, its last known location was in the desert just outside Victorville, California. As of last month, all smart cars of this make and model have been recalled. In the year 2025, a Waymo customer, Mike Johns, shared his troubling experience with a self-driving taxi that drove him in circles, nearly causing him to miss his flight. In a LinkedIn post, he described the situation as disorienting, saying he felt as if he were part of a prank or a movie. The vehicle acted erratically while he was attempting to reach the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. Despite the incident, Waymo claims a strong safety record with no catastrophic accidents. However, the experience raised safety concerns about self-driving technology.
My name is Nina, and I'm in my second year of college right now, so this took place around 2 years ago. When I was a senior in high school, I was in the car hanging out with two of my male friends, and I got a DM on Instagram from this account. For privacy reasons, let's call this account Jason Lee ABCD. This account was messaging me, basically telling me that he's in my grade and that he goes to school with me and that he likes to be bitched around by girls, bossed around, and is a sissy boy. When I asked him who he was, he told me that he wants to keep his identity a secret and he wants me to bitch him around. I obviously thought this was weird, so I said no. Then he started randomly sending me pictures of him with thongs on. I thought it was hysterical, so I kind of kept it going. I just couldn't find out who he is. I really was curious to see who is in my grade who had this weird kink. I would only text him back when I was in my friends because I didn't take him this seriously. Throughout the next few months, he was still texting me, sending me pictures of him wearing his mom's thongs and his sister's skirts and leggings. And by the time we graduated, I never figured out who it was. Throughout the next year of graduation, he was still texting me, and even my friends. I started telling everyone I could about the situation, seeing if anyone I knew could identify him as someone in my grade. No one knew who he was, so everyone else was curious. It was time to get to the bottom of this. One day, a few months into my first year of college, he asked me to meet up with him in person. Of course I wanted to, but I was scared because I didn't really know who this guy was. So I brought my friend Natalia with me. He would text her as well, so she was familiar with him. We met up with him at a dead-end road in our town. Me and Natalia got there in my car around 9:30 p.m. We saw him sitting in a gray Nissan Rogue with a cloth covering his whole head except for his eyes. We saw his license plate number, so of course we wrote it down. Me and Natalia stayed in the car, but he got out of the car and was running around in his thong. He tried to get us out of the car, but we politely declined. He was trying to disguise his voice as much as possible, so we really couldn't tell who he was. After this incident, we didn't believe he was in our grade or that he went to high school with us. We tried looking up his license plate number on every website we could find, but it turns out you can't find someone's license plate on the internet. For the next 6 or 7 months, he was still texting me the same old, asking me to boss him around and stuff, wearing girls' clothes. I would still only respond when I was with my friends. At some point, he started video calling me on Instagram, and I would only pick up sometimes, but he would go into public parking lots at weird hours of the night and run around. One night, he called me when I was at a party, and I picked up. We had around 7 people in the room with us, and they all had heard me talk about this guy before, so they wanted to see what all this was about. I picked up the phone, and sure enough, he was in a parking lot, running around in girls' underwear. As he was doing this, Natalia takes the phone from me, mutes the microphone, and says to me, "I know that parking lot that he's in. That's my old job." I was like, "No way, what are the odds?" "Are you sure?" I said. 100%, she said. At this point, we realized that one of his spots was this parking lot. Around 2 months later, I was hanging out with 3 of my friends I haven't seen in a while, and I never told them about the guy before, so I wound up telling them the story. One of the girls said, "Why don't I just DM him on Instagram and try to figure out who he is?" "Okay, go for it," I said. She started messaging him, and he told her the same stuff, that he was a sissy boy, the whole thing. She was playing the part and decided to tell him that she's into all that stuff. He told her that tomorrow, the next night, he was going to a parking lot, and that he wanted her to give him orders on what to do. Me and my friends came up with a big plan to catch him. What ended up happening was the next night, I picked up Natalia and 3 of my other friends from the previous night, and they were praying that he was going to the same parking lot that Natalia used to work at. The 5 of us sat in my car with hoods on in a parking lot across the street from Natalia's old work, and at around 10:45 p.m. that night, sure enough, a gray Nissan Rogue pulled up into that very parking lot. For about an hour, the girl that was messaging him told him all of these things to do, running around in a thong and such. At midnight, he left the parking lot, and we started to follow him. The goal was to follow him home and get his address. He obviously knew he was being followed, and we were following him for around 2 hours through the city. Surely enough, we followed him home and got his address. We looked up the address on a website and found his sister's name. We went on her Facebook and found him. He did not go to our high school. He lived in the town next to ours, and we had no idea who he was. He was a 20-year-old guy pretending to be someone in our grade. We still have no idea why he reached out to me in the first place, but one of my friends ended up making an Instagram account with the username and his address. The bio said, "Hi Jason Lee." My friend followed this guy on his personal account, and the weird guy ended up deactivating both his Instagram accounts as well. We never heard from him again.
This story was submitted by our Broccoli Fam subscriber Nina. I tried to keep all the details as close as possible to the real incident. On to the next one now.
I stared at myself in the mirror, razor in hand. Shaving was always the first step. It felt like erasing a version of myself, one I couldn't afford to be today. I washed off the foam and patted my face dry, already reaching for the black velvet box sitting near the sink. Inside, makeup, enough to build an entirely new person. Foundation, concealer, mascara, blush. This kit had seen me through more lives than I could count. I covered every hint of stubble, softened my cheekbones with pink, made my lashes flutter like lies. My blue eyes stared back, wrong for who I needed to be. I blinked in the brown lenses. The wig came last, long, black, curly. It smelled faintly of hairspray and something else, something like fear. I slipped it on and gave myself one final look. I didn't recognize the woman in the mirror, and that was perfect. I pulled on the dress, then a trench coat to cover it, and finally, sunglasses. A ghost walking out the door. The restaurant was familiar. Dim lighting, jazz piped in through hidden speakers, overpriced cocktails with sugar-rimmed glasses. She was at the bar already, scrolling on her phone, one hand loosely gripping her drink. Vodka tonic, of course. Her nails were red. Not the playful kind of red either, the kind that warns you before the cut comes. I slid onto the stool beside her. "Same thing," I told the bartender, nodding toward her glass. She glanced at me, a flick of the eyes. Dismissive. Perfect. I toyed with the straw, tilting the glass just enough to pour in the clear liquid from the vial hidden in my coat. Timing had to be flawless. Then, oops, I knocked over her drink. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," I exclaimed, playing flustered like a seasoned actor. She looked up, startled at the crash, but her expression softened. "No worries. Let me buy you another," I insisted. "Actually, here, take mine. I just got it and it's the same." She hesitated, then relented. "Thanks, that's kind." She drank it slowly. I watched the seconds tick by. After 10 minutes, she stood, thanked the bartender, and walked out. I waited a beat, then followed. She turned a corner into a dim alley lined with dumpsters and graffiti. That's when she started gagging. My smile was automatic. I walked faster. "Oh my gosh, are you all right, Becky?" I called out. She hunched over. Perfect. "Let me help you, sweetie," I said, coming closer, hand ready to steady her. Voice soft now, low enough so only she could hear. "It's time to go home." But she stopped gagging. I didn't notice in time. She turned and punched me straight in the gut. "I recognized you the moment you sat down," she hissed. "My drink was fine, and that means yours." I blinked, confused. The world tilted, her face blurred. "Don't follow me again," she said, and then she was gone. I collapsed. I woke up in a motel bathtub, water running cold, clothes soaked, my wig gone. I didn't remember how I got there. My head throbbed, my tongue felt like sandpaper, and the taste in my mouth was chemical. She'd poisoned me. Not lethally, obviously, but enough to make a point. I should have walked away. I did not. Obsession doesn't listen to reason, especially when the target is someone like Becky Marlowe. She wasn't just some woman at a bar. She was the one that got away from me. I spent the next 3 weeks watching her social media like a hawk. Becky was careful. Too careful. No location tags, no selfies, nothing newer than a week old. But I noticed the patterns. She always followed a local news anchor from Atlanta, and every time she posted something obscure, Becky would like it within the hour. So I drove to Atlanta, checked into a corporate Airbnb with blinds that barely shut and floors that creaked, waited, watched, cross-referenced live streams, city cams, coffee shop check-ins. I didn't eat much, just black coffee, protein bars, and revenge. Then, bingo. A video went semi-viral on TikTok. Some guy filmed a heated conversation between a waitress and a customer at a Korean barbecue joint in Midtown. It wasn't Becky's face, but it was her voice. The cadence, that little uptick at the end of her insults. I was there an hour later. She was gone. But the waitress remembered her, said she left a minute before a guy got handsy and the whole place erupted in chaos. Typical Becky, slipping away during distractions. But this time, I was prepared. I hacked into the restaurant's Wi-Fi. She'd logged in. Basic digital hygiene mistake. Rookie stuff. I tracked her MAC address to a co-working space 2 blocks away. She was shopping for nail paints, dresses, and shoes, and Victoria's Secret. This made me salivate. I would rip it all off, like a dog. That night, I camped outside the building. It was cold, but I didn't move. At 2:14 a.m., she left. I let her walk 3 blocks ahead before I started following. At the 3rd intersection, she paused. Wrong move. I was already behind her. She sensed me a second too late. I grabbed her, hand over her mouth, dragged her into the alley between an abandoned tattoo shop and a boarded-up bar. No cameras, no witnesses. She thrashed, but I was stronger. "You really should have stayed gone, Becky. You had your chance." Her eyes narrowed. No fear. She smirked. "Yeah? So should you. And that's when it happened. A flash! I was blinded. Literally blinded. My vision white-outed as something sprayed directly into my eyes. Mace? No, worse. Pepper spray with UV dye. My grip loosened. He punched me in the stomach and then kicked me. Got the whole thing on my Apple Watch, by the way, she said. Live streamed straight to all my socials. Police know where I am. You know what your problem is? She added, walking backward toward the street, pulling out her phone and tapping. You still think women like me don't know how to fight back. The sound of sirens started up in the distance. Stay down this time, or next time it's your name trending with a hashtag #MeToo. She turned the corner and disappeared into the night. I didn't follow. I couldn't. In the year 2025, after a big fight with her boyfriend, 26-year-old Kara decided to go on their romantic Valentine's Day getaway to Jersey by herself. Avoiding phone calls and messages from him, she was determined to stay away from him, but had to fly back home early after finding out that he had decided to follow her all the way to Jersey.